You ever notice how two people can be the exact same age, making the exact same amount of money, and somehow living in completely different financial universes? Like, one of them always seems relaxed, not flashy, not driving Lamborghinis or anything crazy, but calm. Vacations planned months in advance, car repairs are annoying but not catastrophic. They talk about money the way people talk about weather, mildly interested, not panicked. And then there's the other person. Same paycheck, same raises, same economy, but their life feels tight, like they're constantly bracing for impact. Credit card balances hovering, one unexpected expense away from that deep stomach drop feeling. They're doing fine on paper, but emotionally, it never really feels like enough. And the weird part is, if you asked both of them, they'd probably tell you the same thing. I don't make that much. I'm just trying to keep up. Everything's so expensive now. Which, honestly, yeah, true. I've spent way too much time thinking about money, human behavior, and why people with identical starting points end up in wildly different places. Like, why does that happen? Why does one life slowly get easier while the other just feels permanently stressful? And I don't mean this in a judgmental way. I've been on both sides of that equation at different points. There were years where I made decent money and still felt broke, and other years where I made less and somehow felt more stable. Which doesn't even make sense until you really sit with it. What I want to do here is pull back the curtain a little, because the difference between the rich life and the broke life usually isn't intelligence, luck, or hustle culture nonsense. It's not secret investments or some hidden income stream nobody tells you about. It's quieter than that, more boring, more psychological. And once you see it, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. It changes how you think about your paycheck, your habits, your future. Not overnight, not magically, but in this slow, steady, almost invisible way that actually sticks. So if you've ever wondered why it feels like you're working hard but not moving forward, or why someone else with the same income seems to be playing a completely different game, let's talk about it. Because the difference isn't what most people think. Let's start with something simple. Two people, same age, same income. Let's say they both make $75,000 a year. Nothing outrageous, nothing entry-level, solid, middle-of-the-road income. On paper, they should feel roughly the same financially, right? But they don't. One of them feels pressure every single month. Rent is due, car payment hits, credit card bill lands, and suddenly the month feels heavy, like the money was already spoken for before it even arrived. The other person, same income, same rent range, same city, but their money feels quieter, less urgent, less dramatic. The difference isn't the income, it's how much of that income is pre-committed. Broke life tends to front-load financial obligations, payments everywhere, monthly subscriptions, financed furniture, car loans stretched to the max because it's only $480 a month, lifestyle upgrades that quietly turn into permanent expenses. Rich life, at least the kind nobody talks about, keeps flexibility, fewer fixed costs, fewer promises made to future paychecks. And here's the part people don't love hearing. Most of those commitments felt reasonable at the time. That car, it felt earned. That apartment, I'll grow into it. That subscription, it's only $15. But when you stack them all together, you end up with a paycheck that arrives already exhausted. And once your money is fully assigned before it hits your account, stress becomes the default. Not because you're bad with money, but because there's no margin. Margin is the real luxury. Not the car, not the vacation. Margin.
Here's something subtle but powerful. Broke life tends to think in months, rich life tends to think in years. Not intentionally, not because one person is smarter, it just happens. If your financial world is tight, your brain zooms in. Can I make it to next paycheck? Can I afford this bill? What if something goes wrong this month? That short-term focus isn't a flaw, it's a survival response. But the side effect is that long-term decisions start losing priority. Retirement feels abstract, investing feels optional, saving feels like something you'll do once things calm down. Except things never really calm down. Meanwhile, the other person, same income, starts small. Maybe they automate a retirement contribution. Maybe they build a boring emergency fund. Nothing dramatic, just enough to push their thinking outward. And once your brain shifts from this month to next year, your behavior changes. You stop asking, can I afford this payment? You start asking, what does this cost me over time? That one shift alone creates two completely different trajectories. There's this quiet lie we all absorb at some point. I'll upgrade now and catch up later. Bigger apartment, nicer car, more expensive habits, because your income will keep rising, right? Sometimes it does, but lifestyle inflation has this sneaky way of matching you step for step. You get a raise, your expenses quietly follow. Not all at once, just enough to keep things tight. And here's the brutal part. Once a lifestyle becomes normal, it stops feeling optional. Downgrading feels like failure, like going backward, even if it's the smartest move financially. The rich life person doesn't necessarily live cheaper, they live intentionally. They delay upgrades, they wait, they let their income outpace their lifestyle instead of racing to meet it. That gap between what you earn and what you spend is where wealth quietly forms. Not overnight, over years. Debt isn't just a number, it's a background emotion. You might not think about it constantly, but it hums in the background, influences decisions, adds friction. Same income, same age, one person has payments everywhere, the other has very few. Guess who feels freer? And no, this isn't about never using debt, it's about what debt does to your options. When your income is already committed to past decisions, your future choices shrink. You can't take risks, you can't pivot, you can't breathe. The rich life minimizes debt not because it's morally superior, but because flexibility is priceless.
Nothing exposes the gap faster than an unexpected expense. Car repair, medical bill, job disruption. For one person, it's annoying. For the other, it's catastrophic. Same income, different preparation. And here's the thing, emergencies aren't rare. They're guaranteed. The only question is whether you treat them like surprises or inevitabilities. The rich life plans for boring disasters. The broke life hopes they don't happen. Hope is not a strategy. We don't talk enough about how money changes your relationship with time. When you're broke, time feels expensive. You trade it constantly. Overtime, side gigs, hustling just to maintain. When you're stable, time becomes negotiable. You say no more often. You think long term. You rest without guilt. Same income, different leverage. And leverage is everything. Here's a weird one. At some point, the rich life person stops seeing money as something they chase and starts seeing it as something they manage. That identity shift is subtle but massive. They don't ask, how can I make more first? They ask, how do I keep what I already earn? Broke life often focuses on income as the solution. Rich life focuses on systems, and systems beat motivation every time. Nobody wakes up rich, but they do wake up slightly less stressed, slightly more prepared, slightly more confident. Those tiny wins compound emotionally, not just financially. Confidence leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes reinforce confidence. It's a loop, and it starts way smaller than people think.
If there's one thing I hope sticks with you, it's this. The difference between a rich life and a broke life usually isn't income. It's pressure, margin, and time horizon. It's whether your money gives you options or takes them away. Same age, same income, completely different experience of life. And the good news, like the genuinely hopeful part, is that this isn't about becoming someone else. You don't need a new personality. You don't need to grind harder. You don't need to figure everything out at once. You just need to start creating space. A little less commitment, a little more margin, a little more patience. Wealth, real wealth, grows quietly. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't show up as a dramatic moment. It shows up as fewer emergencies, calmer decisions, and the ability to exhale. And honestly, that version of rich is available to way more people than we're led to believe. Not overnight, not instantly, but step by step. So if you're watching this and thinking, yeah, that sounds like me, just know you're not behind. You're not broken. You're just standing at the part where awareness turns into choice. And that's where everything starts to change.